In Infrastructural work behind the scene, a study of formalized peer support practices for mental health, we try to understand the implications of changes in peer support services in response to the COVID-19 pandemic for the design of digital support tools. The care gap in mental health motivates our work. A recent survey in the UK shows that waiting times are spiraling for mental health treatment. Around a quarter of people report not having timely access to potentially life-saving treatment, and 78% of mental health patients have had to seek help from emergency services. The COVID pandemic has had a significant impact on all forms of care provision within the UK as well, generally making access more restricted or difficult. Peer support is a promising approach to widen access. In peer support, people with lived experiences of mental illness and recovery support each other. They provide experiential knowledge as well as informational, emotional, and social support. And recently, these services have been improved by a move towards recovery-based peer support, highlighting that people with mental health needs are humans first, not just patients with illnesses to be managed. The services have been changed by the COVID pandemic, but they haven't always been changed for the worse, as other healthcare services might have been. In this work, we asked the question, what can we learn from recovery-based peer support to inform support tool design? And we address it using an ethnographic study. Our work is based in Scotland, a leader in recovery-based peer support for mental health, where of a population of 5.5 million in 2016, there were estimated to be 80 full-time peer support workers running and organising peer support networks. We contacted 24 such networks and were able to work with 6 of them. 3 we only attended online sessions with, but the other 3 we were able to go to in person and sit in on their sessions, and we conducted interviews both online and face-to-face with 22 participants in total. Our participants were from diverse backgrounds with a wide range of different ages, and we found that their roles within organizations were similarly rather diverse. Some people were volunteers, some people were simply service users, other people were professional support workers. However, as we might expect with a peer support network, we found that most people had been service users at some point. Our findings reveal infrastructural work behind the scenes. Infrastructural work is the necessary work needed to set up and manage conditions so that peer support can take place in an effective and safe way. This behind-the-scenes work took 2 forms: the work to ensure availability and proactivity, and the work to manage groups and boundaries. The work to ensure availability and proactivity first focused on availability and timeliness of services, a particularly important aspect of them, which differentiated them from the national healthcare services offerings within the UK most of the time. We often had it stressed to us that mental health crises did not limit themselves to a 9-to-5 schedule, or they didn't neatly take place within the limited 12 weeks of support that a service might be able to offer. The constant ongoing nature of peer support was reassuring in of itself for the service users. However, it was difficult to offer and relied upon having good support workers who were hard to find. However, one strategy did shine through for us with all of the groups that we worked with, and that was making sure to move members who were starting to feel better into more active roles within a service. In many ways, what we were told was that the engagement with a peer support service could mirror the recovery of a volunteer. So 8 years on, and I'm now a volunteer in the cafe, and I'm running my own gaming group that starts next week, like using the Xbox and whatnot. I also host the karaoke here on the Friday. It's changed how things have come. Well, it's funny. It was like 8 years ago, just unbelievable. We also found that different levels of engagement needed to be allowed within these groups. So not everyone could be an active member of a group all of the time, but they still needed to have support available to us. Aaron told us, yeah, that's a good thing about the place. It's because you can come and eat. You can come in and just sit and observe, and you can come and sit down and talk with people. Depends on your frame of mind or what you're in on any particular day. The move online was useful here. It actually provided people with more choices. So Amanda told us, even though I might not feel like participating in a chat, I still read it and sometimes just give a lot of thumbs up so they know I'm still alive. And Natalie told us about how she could engage on Zoom when she was tired by switching her camera off and not necessarily unmuting at any point during the meeting, but she still felt that that was beneficial. The final element of ensuring the availability and support service was there for people when they needed it was proactive care. That is the act of checking if people need help by asking them rather than waiting for them to come and ask for help and support. This was important. Aaron told us later on last year, I was feeling a bit on edge. I came in and they came to me. They spotted there was something wrong and came to me before I got to them because they could see it on my face. They came straight over and asked me what it was wrong. And that makes life so much easier. This proactive care was very important. And while it was usually initiated by peer support workers, they seemed to model this care for the other service users. And so Zach, reporting his time as a service user before he became a volunteer, stressed, you don't want to see people going away upset. That's what we try and do. I'll go over to them and say, are you okay? The work to manage groups and boundaries was also important for the group's success as well. So we found that, first of all, the group composition was actively managed by the peer support workers that we talked with. Sometimes this wasn't necessary. Declan told us that we don't stop anybody from coming. It is so great. It's like a multicultural group. But in another case, Daniel, who was a student, told us about how it could be intimidating for him as an undergraduate to talk about his problems with study when PhD students were revealing, in his view, much more serious or challenging experiences that they were being confronted with. What we found worked here was bottom-up emergent processes. So Joseph told us it's really up to the people that use the service what they want to do. There wouldn't be any point in us starting a group and saying this is what's going to happen, then people might not like it, We just started a stained glass workshop because people wanted to try it that, and also a jewelry design group. And this point led us into another important element of group management, which was managing the selection of group activities and ensuring they were appropriate. Kim told us about gardening and how it was a particularly great way of getting people talking. If you stick people around the table and tell them to talk, it can be a bit awkward, he warned us. But these groups took a lot of effort to manage. Ensuring these smooth, natural, positive conversations was a lot of work. One way to do it, though, as Declan told us, was to make sure that everyone was there, not just the people who weren't doing so well. We encourage the men to come whether they're feeling good or bad. If feeling good, they should still come because they can pass on some good energy onto the other men. If they're feeling bad, they get the support from the other men. Finally, perhaps most difficultly for the support workers, they also needed to manage the boundaries of the groups that they were operating in. So Margaret told us we'll obviously screen what they're presenting with, and there might be one or two individuals that we see maybe aren't suitable for the space because of their present needs, and we'll obviously make sure that the centre is risk averse. Issues such as substance abuse could be particularly triggering for some group members, and they didn't necessarily want to be in a setting with people discussing those problems if they felt that it could perhaps reawaken for them their own problems, just for example. However, boundary management was something that needed to be practiced by volunteers and service users as well. And one of the key ways that they did this was relying on the hierarchy of the groups that they operated within. So Kevin told us, I'm supposed to go and help people, listen to people. And if I hear anything, I just tell the staff because they're more professional than me. So whenever they realize that they have come across a problem they don't have the skills to address, they know where to turn to find support within their organization. So reflecting on our findings, we saw a wide range of spaces where ICTs could be used to enhance peer support. They could provide places to hang out and increase the availability of services, perhaps through casual games or social settings where people might share social style updates. We also saw gap or a potential to assist proactive care by providing better social cues. A Zoom call risks losing body language or the facial expression that draws someone across the room to ask if you are doing okay. We need to explore how we can reintroduce those into remote meetings. Finally, facilitating boundary management needs to be done in some more formalized way. At the moment, it is a process that relies upon the gut of the user and not, or service users, and not on any formalized process. So I would like you to thank you for listening, and I hope you take the time to read the paper.